Welcome to the Genealogy Gems podcast, providing quick and innovative ways to make the absolute most out of your research time and creative ideas for sharing and displaying your family history. I'm your host, Lisa Louise Cook. Hello and welcome to Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 114. So glad you're joining me today. My goal is to bring you the best in family history, the genealogy gems that answer your research questions, keep you at the forefront of technology, and just downright inspire you. That's my hope. I know that producing this show inspires me to keep moving my own family history research forward and to make the time to share it with my family in very creative ways because, after all, it's not just for me, but all this history is for them too. And I know you feel the same. Well, one thing that we can always count on is that new digital genealogical records are hitting the internet on a daily basis. Of course, the trick is to know what they are and how to find them. So let's dig right in and do a little Genealogy Records Roundup. Let's start up north with the Library and Archives Canada. It's announced the launch of an updated version of its finding aid to locate electoral districts in its federal voters list collection, which spans from 1935 to 1980. This updated version provides for each of the 892 microfilm reels of the collection the electoral year, the province, the exact name of the electoral district, and the page numbers for each microfilm. So you can find all of that at collectionscanada.gc.ca and click on the genealogy area. The Library and Archives Canada also recently announced the release of a new version of the online database Lower Canada Land Petitions, 1626 to 1865. Now, this version includes digitized images of the actual petitions for all individuals listed in the database. Corrections to entries, including suggestions received from users, have also been integrated into this updated version. And again, you can find that at collectionscanada.gc.ca, and that's in the databases area. Here in the States, there's a lot of record activity as well. Family Search has added free records for at least 10 countries, and their U.S. collection editions include records for Iowa, Indiana, Louisiana, Ohio, Vermont, and Wisconsin. Collections covering several countries were updated. Germany and Mexico church records were the two largest collections added, and you'll also find 25 million new images of historic records for 16 countries, including Belgium, Brazil, Canada, the Czech Republic, Spain, Switzerland, Wales, New Zealand, and over 8 million civil registration records for the Netherlands. The 1930 U.S. Census Indexing Project is also coming to a completion. They are going to start some new U.S. projects over at Family Search that you might want to consider helping out with as a volunteer. They have plans to build a nationwide marriage index. That sounds good. There are several projects that are already underway towards this, and of course, many new marriage projects are coming. They have started also a Civil War era initiative that's going to include record collections expanding before and after the Civil War, which should come in very handy indeed. Now, another records website that you have been probably hearing about lately is archives.com. And while they are newcomers to the genealogy records field, they are getting new records out there as well. Archives.com recently announced that there are 17 million new U.S. vital and military records available on their website. These new birth, death, marriage, and military records make up 30 unique collections. So here's a quick summary of the new records. Maybe one of these is something that you've been looking for. Military personnel records, including personnel records from the Vietnam War and Gulf War eras. Now, they boast nearly 16 million in all, and they say that these records cover individuals who served in the Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy, and National Guard. In the vital records category, they have added Texas birth, death, and marriage records, dating anywhere from 1800 all the way up to 2011, and covering the following counties in Texas: Fort Bend, El Paso, Cook, Montgomery, Tarrant, Burnett, Hood, Denton, and Kaufman. There are 1.4 million new Texas records in total. And here in the States, they've also added Colorado marriage and death records from Delta County, which is located in the western part of the state. Over 9,000 new records have been added there. And South Carolina marriage records, a collection of 4,000 early South Carolina marriages covering the years from 1641 to 1799. So those are nice. Those go way back. I'll have a link in the show notes that'll get you to a page with a comprehensive list of all of these newly added records. And finally, here in the U.S., we are already talking about records that aren't due for another year. Yep, we are talking about the 1940 U.S. population census schedules. It's still more than 9 months away, but in the time that it takes to bring a new descendant into the world, the National Archives is going to be delivering the 1940 U.S. population schedules to the public. Yay! And there are a couple of guys who have been on the forefront of this event, none other than Stephen Morse and Joel Weintraub. And Joel has been my special guest on a past premium podcast episode, so you'll remember him. Of course, we are all chomping at the bit to dig into the 1940 census, even though there won't be an index when it's first released. However, the guys have put out a press release about what you can do to get ready to search the 1940 when it comes out, so let me give you the scoop here. It says it will not be name indexed, so it will be necessary to do an address search in order to find families. Address searching involves knowing the ED, which is the enumeration district, in which the address is located. The National Archives earlier this year indicated that they had plans to make available in 2011 the 1940 ED maps of cities and counties and ED descriptions, but their recent move to consider having a third party host all of the images may have appreciably set back this timetable. The only website that currently has location tools for the 1940 census is the Steve Morse one-step site at stevemorse.org. That's MORSE. There are several such tools there, and it could be overwhelming to figure out which tool to use when. There is a tutorial that attempts to clarify this and an extensive frequently asked questions section. We are announcing the opening of another educational utility to help people learn about the different 1940 locations, search tools on the one-step site, and information about the 1940 census itself. It is in the form of a quiz and should help many genealogists quickly learn how to search an unindexed census by location. The new utility is stevemorse.org/census/quiz.php, and it's called How to Access the 1940 Census in One Step. Not only is it informative, we hope it is entertaining. Well, entertaining it is. I was talking with Diane Haddad on the Family Tree Magazine podcast about this. She was blogging about it and trying it out herself. And at least those of us who are passionate about family history are certainly going to find this entertaining. So I'll have links for you in the show notes for all of these great websites and the tools so that you can get started preparing and getting in the mood for the 1940 population schedules right away. But there's still another way to prep for the big release, and that is to learn more about the 1940 enumeration process. And the National Archives has released 4 short videos created by the U.S. Census Bureau prior to 1940 that were used to train enumerators on their general duties and responsibilities, as well as the correct procedures for filling out the 1940 census. Even though family historians tend to focus on the population schedules, there are several different schedules created. We've talked about those here on the show, and the film describes the main ones, which include population schedule, agricultural, and the housing schedules. You'll also learn more about the background of the census and the reasons behind the questions that they asked back then in 1940. And it's really the reasons behind the questions that sheds even more light on, what the priorities were back then at that time and kind of clues as to what life was like back in 1940. And of course, the films themselves, they really do give you a glimpse of the ending of the 1930s, the entry into the 1940s. These training films were produced very much like the old newsreels were. So you're going to see a lot more kind of just real people going about their business, not just actors and Hollywood's view of 1940s life that we might see in other films from that decade. Though, of course, it's probably fair to say that it represents the government's view of life at that time. But it is kind of a neat sneak peek. And the films also cover the duties of the enumerators. What was it like? What were they told were the priorities? It highlights the three major principles that they were instructed to follow, which were accuracy, complete coverage, and confidential answers. You can watch the first film, which is the 1940 Census Introduction, right from the Genealogy Gems episode number 114 show notes. I'll have it there for you. And there will also be a link there that'll take you on over to the 1940 Census playlist at the National Archives channel. Where else? At YouTube. They've got one. So that is over in episode 114 show notes. And finally, let's head over to the United Kingdom and talk about some of the new records that are coming up over there. The British Library is 1 year into its plan to digitize 40 million news pages from its vast 750 million collection. It's housed in Colindale, North London. According to their recent press release, this fall the library will reinvent its cavernous vaults as a website where amateur genealogists and eager historians will be able to browse the 19th century newsprint from their home computer. Sounds heavenly, doesn't it? About 500,000 newspaper pages have already been scanned. Fewer than a dozen staff clean, copy, and upload roughly 8,000 pages a day, about enough to cover a football pitch, they say here in their press release. And okay, I admit it, I didn't know what a football pitch was. So ran over to Google. Hey, all of you in the U.S., it's a football field. So it's as big as a football field. That's the idea here. And when it goes live, the site aims to display more than 1.5 million pages with 4 million pages uploaded by the end of next year. Sounds great. And of course, if you are a Genealogy Gems Premium member, then you can find out even more information about how to find online newspapers by watching the recorded webinar, which is called Getting the Scoop on Your Ancestors. That's included in the premium area of the website. Also, recently announced by the British Library in conjunction with Google is their partnership to digitize 250,000 out-of-copyright books from the library's collections. Now, this means that down the road, you're going to have access to a phenomenal collection of books. And according to the British Library, providing greater access to patrons is one of their stated goals. Now, once digitized, the collection is going to be available for full text search, download, and reading through Google Books. We love that, as well as being searchable through the library's website and stored within the library's digital archive. Now, this is great news, and even more interesting on the heels of the news that not long ago that Google was discontinuing their partnership with newspaper publishers, where they're no longer going to add new content to the Google News Archive. I really take this as a sign that that situation is more of an isolated incident, and thankfully they are going to continue other partnerships like this one that continues to bring historic books to our computers through Google Books. Selected by the British Library and digitized by Google, both organizations will work in partnership over the coming years to deliver this content free through Google Books, which is over in the UK at books.google.co.uk, and the British Library's website, which is bl.uk. And nice guys, Google's going to cover all the digitization costs. Wow. So what are they going to be digitizing? You might be wondering. Well, they say that the project's going to digitize a huge range of printed books, pamphlets, and periodicals covering a large time span, 1700 all the way through 1870. It's going to include materials in a variety of major European languages, and they're going to be particularly focusing on books that are not yet freely available in digital format online. And also in the UK, the popular Deceased Online website is sporting some new records. How does 313,000 records for Edinburgh's Seafield Cemetery and Crematorium and for Worriston Crematorium sound? Well, you'll find them at Deceased Online. nearly 39,000 burial records dating from 1888 to the present day for Seafield Cemetery feature scans of mortality registers. And Richard Gray over at Deceased Online tells me that many of these include details even on the type of hearse that was used. So you never know what you'll find in these kind of records. So you can check those out at Deceased Online. Also, by early August, they are going to add another 1.25 million burial and cremation records from the north of Scotland to South Devon. So, the uploads continue, and hopefully you have heard something in this records roundup that is just what you were waiting for. And now I want to hear something from you. We're going to do that over at the mailbox. Okay, my first email here is from Sean, who has a comment about episode number 113. He says, I'm in the middle of listening to Genealogy Gems 113 while editing photos for a client today, and the discussion about data validation in online trees caught my ear. One strategy that I have recently begun when posting data to my genealogy blog is to include footnotes and reference lists showing what sources were used to find the data. This isn't a difficult task at all, since all the data and the source citations are in my local Roots Magic database. So all I need to do is copy and then paste the source information when I paste the data into a blog post. An example of this strategy is in my recent post about our Curtis line that I posted at the findingtheflock.blogspot.com blog. If more genealogy research blogs listed their sources with the data, we could all benefit from the shared research even more. Well, that is a great point, Sean. Source citation is so critical to good research, and I agree that blogs and online family trees really shouldn't be exempt. They should include source citation just like any other good database. And in looking at Sean's blog post, and I'll have a link for you in the show notes, it really helps the reader not only be confident that the information he's presenting is accurate and substantiated, but also it tells them how to get a hold of it. We get familiar with the various published histories out there, and you can just tell by a quick glance at the citations whether he's blogging about the same information that you might have, or whether he's found new sources that you'll want to check out. So, great idea. Thank you very much for sharing, Sean. Next up, Richard in California. He wrote in and asked if the new so-called Amazon law is impacting genealogy gems. So the background on this is that for the last couple of years, I've had Genealogy Gems set up as an Amazon.com affiliate so that when my listeners shop at Amazon, when you guys click on any link or ad on our website, Genealogy Gems gets a commission, basically, is how it works. And this has really helped fund the cost of producing the free show. And it's worked beautifully for everybody because, of course, there's no additional cost to you as the shopper, whether you go to Amazon Direct or you go through our link. So what the heck? You go through our links, right? Well, we're based in California, and in true anti-business fashion, our lawmakers here have passed a law requiring Amazon and other internet companies to pay additional taxes on sales through California-based affiliates. So with the commissions that they've set up and everything, they can't afford the additional loss in revenue and still pay a worthwhile commission. So they were forced to end contracts with all of the California affiliates, including the Genealogy Gems podcast. It was very sad because I like working with them and I like shopping there. So the bottom line is that we've received our last commission check. It's done. It's dried up. And we're working diligently to find new affiliate relationships and arrangements so that we can keep the free podcast up and running, because there are costs associated with producing it. But don't worry, because I do think we have a couple of really terrific vendors lined up, and I'm hoping that they can make up the difference if you guys decide to shop through them. First of all, we're becoming an affiliate of Family Tree Magazine's Shop Family Tree online store. It's not quite set up yet, but we are almost there. And we've also added, it's already on the website, buy.com, which pretty much carries about everything that Amazon did. It's just a huge shopping site and seems to be a very good vendor. And also we have Barnes & Noble, which of course I love books, but they don't just specialize in books. They also have DVDs, toys, games, electronics. They do the free shipping deal with orders of $25 or more. So You will notice when you go to genealogygems.com in the upper right-hand corner where there used to be an Amazon search box, you will now find the Deal of the Day ad, which is Barnes & Noble. But of course, when you click that, it doesn't matter whether you buy the Deal of the Day or anything else at their site. If you're going to do some shopping, it will benefit the show. Also, we have switched the button here. I'm looking here on the toolbar. We've had an Amazon button to make it really quick and easy for you to jump to our shopping sites. It should change very soon to look like a B&N button for Barnes & Noble. But by clicking it, it will take you to a page on our website that actually includes all of our affiliates. So there'll be images there, logos for Barnes & Noble, buy.com, iTunes, Footnote. Those are 4 that we've kind of got set up and arranged that we think have terrific products that would be worthwhile and hopefully things that you'll need yourself. And particularly with the holidays, oh my gosh, just around the corner. It's already midsummer, so we got to start thinking Christmas, right? Hopefully there'll be some terrific vendors there that you can work with and hopefully do some of your shopping there. And that certainly helps us stay afloat. So we appreciate that very much. And thanks for asking, Richard. I was very bummed when that happened. But, you just got to keep trucking. So that's what we're doing. Are you looking to take the next step in your family history research and start recording your family tree in your own genealogy database? Or are you looking to make a switch to a more user-friendly genealogy software program? When my listeners and students ask me which program I prefer, I always recommend RootsMagic. It's the program I decided to make the switch to a couple of years ago, and I am so glad I did. You just won't find a more powerful genealogy software program, and building your family tree is easier than ever with the new RootsMagic 4. With RootsMagic, you can add unlimited facts, find anyone in your database with lightning speed with RootsMagic Explorer, quickly and easily create perfectly formatted sources with the RootsMagic Source Wizard. It makes it so easy. You can create customized reports, and best of all, you can now take RootsMagic wherever your research takes you with RootsMagic to Go, which lets you run RootsMagic directly off your flash drive. And RootsMagic makes it a snap to share your family history. You know how important I think that is. It'll help you publish a book, create stunning wall charts, shareable CDs, even create websites automatically from your data. Really, what are you waiting for? Download your risk-free trial of RootsMagic 4 and see why professionals and beginners alike choose RootsMagic at rootsmagic.com. In this gem, I'm going to explain how to get off spooky Spokio. Okay, you remember earlier this year when I told you about a new website called Spokio, a people search engine that organizes vast quantities of white pages listings, social information, and other people-related data from a large variety of public sources. They say that their mission is to help people find and connect with each other more easily than ever, and that they certainly do, and I was recommending it as a people search website. But I also remember calling the site a bit spooky because it so readily provides so much information about a person, even photographs and pictures of their house and that kind of stuff. But that's what makes it such a great site for finding lost relatives. And that's at spokeo.com, S-P-O-K-E-O. Well, Dello wrote in about her experience with Spokio and had a few questions about online security. She writes, I do not want my name and all my personal information showing up on any site where someone has evidently gathered the information from the public domain and is offering it to the public either for free or for a charge. I don't live in a slum, that is a below average neighborhood as it states, or in a costly penthouse either. Also, I'm not an old lady. Oh my gosh, did it say you were an old lady? That's terrible. Age-wise, as the site reveals, why should either one of these pieces of data even matter to someone who's just trying to find a cousin to collaborate with? Well, and of course, Spokio is servicing a lot more people than just folks looking for relatives, that's for sure. Well, she says, my mere opening of this site was scary. The results tell me that I also need to find out how to make myself totally unavailable or anonymous on several other name and data gathering and regurgitating it all to the public sites. The capability of doing so is not family history. It's here and now, dangerous and without permission. No, I don't belong to Facebook or any other site yet where anyone or everybody can simply enter my personal space and data with a few taps on a keyboard and clicks of a mouse and know more about me than I know about myself. How do I opt out of my name even appearing on this site? My name appearing on the site for anyone who enters it is one thing, but all of my personal information being categorized, also showing there up front too, is beyond even the lowest denominator of ethics or decency. Then the capability of their paying a mere $2.95 to get my actual house number added to my residence address, my email address, and my telephone number is a paltry nothing if someone wants to take over my life or bug me for the rest of my life, telephoning or emailing me for their own purposes, whether they be ulterior or just for curiosity. Family history sites such as FamilySearch.org and Ancestry.com stay within the privacy law and do not show personal data for living people. How do the people stay within the law when they put these snoop sites together so that anyone can find information for the living? What right do they have, or assume that they have, even to do this at all, or legally? It's no wonder that identity theft occurs and the occurrence is rising. Well, Della is obviously concerned about her privacy, and in this technological age, managing our online presence has really become an issue that all of us need to keep in mind as we're working online. And certainly in doing genealogy, we're doing that a lot. In reality, it's not really Spokio that's reaching into areas that were previously forbidden. So, because here in the U.S., we've always had a lot of public information. And I think that the real difference that you're experiencing is that the internet offers information vendors a hugely accelerated method for delivering this public information. It used to have to be compiled in books and updated at a very slow pace, or even more difficult, you had to make a personal trip to a location where the information was held publicly. And of course, back in the day, few people even bothered with that. But the information really has always been available. The one exception that comes to mind is Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter and other social media websites. Now, these didn't exist in the past, but the only reason that personal information or photos or whatever you have out there is on those sites is because we put it there, right? And putting it out there isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm on Facebook. I know many of you are. It's just that with that freedom of, sharing online comes a responsibility to manage and protect it appropriately. Tweaking the security settings can make a huge difference in what's available publicly. So you really can be in the driver's seat of that. And, the new Google Plus that's recently come out, everybody's adding everybody on Google Plus. It seems to really have made security settings much easier. Facebook could learn a few lessons from Google Plus about making it easier for people to manage their security. The features are there in Facebook, but they can take a bit of digging just to find them and then to figure out how to change them. But they are there and it's worth doing. But let's get back to Spokio. I 100% agree that if you don't want all your data so easily searched on a website, there should be a way to manage that. And I've done a bit of research on this, and there certainly is a way. To request that public information about you be removed from Spokio.com people searches, you'll need to use their Remove a Listing tool. You can find that at Spokio.com/privacy. This page also contains information about sending written requests for removal. This process is only intended to remove information available through Spokio.com, and it can't remove the information from third-party public sources. So if they're drawing data about you from another website that's free, they can't stop that website from, putting your information out there, but they can block what they add. So examples of that might be, phone book websites or government websites. There's government websites that have information out there. And I know that many of you who have sat in on my Finding Living Relatives class know that there certainly are. And as I said before, information is public. The information that's coming to Spokio is from a wide range of sources. And its computer databases and internet search and delivery, all of that makes it so much easier than it used to be. So in that respect, Spokeo is really just the messenger. It's just that the public data has been accelerated by all this technology. Julie also wrote in to me about Spokeo. She says, yes, that is spooky-o, because I found myself, address, and even a Google Earth picture of where I live, and I'm a survivor of domestic violence, still unable to escape my ex-husband after 30 years of divorce. And Julie's concern is totally understandable. Many people are in situations like that. These types of sites are a double-edged sword, to be sure. It's good to understand that the public information has always been out there. It's just that technology is, again, making it so much easier to deliver it. And that's how these sites, what these sites are doing. So to learn more about Spokeo's privacy policy, visit their privacy FAQ page. You'll find it at spokeo.com/blog/my-content-privacy. And I would recommend just going to spokeo.com and searching on your name just to see what's currently there. And then you can make some decisions from there how you want to modify what's available. And of particular interest there at the FAQ page, you're going to find a question that says, how do I make my content private? So here's what Spokeo's specific answer says. Our search reflects only what is found in public profiles across dozens of social networks. If your name or picture shows up on the search page, this would mean that your full name is recorded in one of the networks, such as MySpace or Facebook. Please remove your name off of all the social networks you may be on or set them to private. And that's what I would recommend is you don't have to, bail on all of these connecting websites. You just need to set it to private so that only people that you invite can see your data. And it goes on to say, please be informed that the updated information may not reflect right away, as our servers only update periodically due to the abundance of new information and updates made on the web each day. You can also contact the folks at Spokeo. They're located in Pasadena, California. Their contact page is at spokeo.com/contact. And for other sites that are out there that you may come across and find and think, oh, that makes me a little uncomfortable, how much data is out there, what I would recommend is go down to the bottom of the home page and look for the fine print. It might say contact or about us or whatever, and see if you can't make contact with them and make the same request that you're making to Spokeo to modify what's available on you. And I have one more tip for you. If you have a camera with a GPS setting, then your photographs have geographic location tags attached to them. What does that mean? Well, when you post those photos online, it means strangers will not only see your photograph, but they'll also see exactly where you were at the time that you took the photo. Now, this may not matter too much if you're in Paris, France, but it's especially important to remember if you are posting photographs that you took at home. So if you're taking pictures of the kids and you're putting them on Facebook or other websites, and you have GPS on your photographs, you are then giving anybody who has you friended on Facebook access to that data, and they'll know exactly where you took the photograph and where it came from. Or if you post it on an open website, of course, then it's available to the entire Google search engine. So check your camera instruction manual for information on how to turn off that feature when you don't need it, or when you're taking photographs in a sensitive location where you don't want to share that with everybody. It's an important step toward taking responsibility for your online presence. Okay, well, coming up next, I'm going to share a little conversation that I had at the Family History Expo in Loveland, Colorado, with a genealogy blogger that I've known online for a couple of years now, but we got a chance to meet in person, and that's Becky Jamison. fun things about coming to a Family History Expo is that you get to meet Facebook friends. And I've been on Facebook for a couple of years now and love it. And when I saw Becky Jamison walk up, I said, I know her because I've seen her profile. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here. And I told you on Facebook the other day, I wanted to meet you when I came to this expo. It's been one of my highlights.
Oh, I appreciate that. You were front and center during the keynote presentation, held my purse for me. So that was very nice. Thank you. And I didn't realize, actually, that you live here in Colorado. Have you been here for a long time?
Since 1989, I've been in Canyon City, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Great. This is not the first time, though, that the expo has come to Colorado. Was last year the first year, and did you come?
No, this is the third year, and I've been at all three of them.
Oh, fantastic. Now, are you blogging? Because I know that you're active on Facebook, and I know you're active on blogging.
I'm not a blogger of honor here this year because Holly didn't have bloggers of honor, but I will be blogging about it when I get home tonight and tomorrow afternoon. I didn't bring my computer because I didn't know if there would be internet access since there were no bloggers of honor. But I have blogged about it the last 2 years very actively and promoted it heavily before I came.
And that's great. And you can tell that it's certainly grown here. It's been active. We're in the exhibit hall, and it's just bustling. But I know that you've made it into classes, and you're here with your husband. What have you sat in on, and what has just struck your fancy this year?
Well, I'm a consultant in our Family History Center in Canyon City, Colorado. So we came with the directors of our Family History Center, and we've gone to all the family search classes so we can better do our job when we go back home. And Google Earth is so exciting to me, and I thought this was the best time to learn from the author, from almost the creator, I feel like, from the source. So I'm going to go to your Google Earth tour, family walking tour class this afternoon. I loved your keynote address. I put it on Facebook last night that Lisa Louise Cook was the best of the day.
Oh, and I didn't pay you to do it either.
Well, that's totally unsolicited, but I'm really turned on to it. I'm not a visual person, but I'm trying to learn new things and get involved in things that I wouldn't ordinarily get involved in. So Google Earth is something new for me. I like these new tools that come along that keep us motivated and pumped up, and right now this has come along right when I need it. I'm pumped.
Isn't it exciting when you think of genealogy as having been around, obviously, since the beginning of time, and people have been tracing and tracking, but it is really cool that there are new ways to look at it and new fun things to do. I think just keeping it spiced up.
I've just been researching for about 12 years, and about the first 10 years you find names and dates and you find the ancestors, and now I want to flower up the story a little bit, and I can do that with all the resources available with.
Well, it sounds like one of the things I know I was trying to encourage people to do was to look at the list of classes and go for something that really sounds foreign to them. You know, we tend to gravitate towards what we're comfortable and what we want to learn more about, but then we don't know what we don't know. And it sounds like even just coming to the Google Earth class for you was you embracing that idea.
Absolutely. Let me tell you one other sideline quick story. I posted in April about going to the Cracker Barrel restaurant and looking on the wall and finding a distant cousin's portrait on the wall, and his name was James R. Osgood. So you said yesterday, when you go to your classes, sit down and turn to the person beside you and meet them. And the very first class I went to after your keynote address, the woman I was sitting beside was Mary Osgood. So I pulled out my iPhone, showed her the blog story that I'd written about James R. Osgood. She knew the Osgoods. She said, what line are you from? And I said, Christopher Osgood. And she says, I'm from John, who was his brother. So the very first class, Lisa, I took your advice and it paid off.
That's a fantastic story. That's amazing.
Sitting right here, and you had just said, turn to the person beside you and get acquainted and talk about your family lines.
And if you hadn't, you wouldn't have known. And I think the other thing is that then when you return the next year, you feel like you're walking down the hall and you can say, oh, hi, because you see friendly faces.
Oh, I know. I've met Gail Gresham through Thomas McKenty on Genia Bloggers, hooked up Gail Gresham, and she's a presenter here, also a Colorado resident. And then I've become good friends with Gina Filbert Ortega, who's working with the Family History Expos, and I feel like I have close friends.
Yeah, it does feel like a family here.
And now I've got Lisa.
And then you've got me, and we got each other. And that is just, for me, fun. It makes it. I look forward then to coming back next year, because this is our first year.
Wait for you to come back. You'll love it. And bring Californians.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, what a gorgeous place. And it's so different here.
Beautiful facility, and a lot of classes that you probably won't hear the speakers in the other bigger venues.
That's true. And I have to say, I really do think this is one of the best
conference facilities I've been to in a long time.
Beautiful. It's just 3 years old. It was opened 1 month before the first expo 3 years ago. We brought someone from Canyon City who's brand new to genealogy, and she just won a year's subscription to one of the companies here, and she's all pumped because there are classes here for the beginner, how to get started, how to start right, and she's gotten so much confidence and she feels so comfortable with it now. So it's not just for experts, but for the beginner. This is a wonderful expo.
There is definitely something for everyone. So what's coming up for you with the second half of 2011?
Get back to genealogy for the last
Make time for your own.
Right, for the last 3 months I've been taking care of my dad daily, and he's back home now and in good health and doing well, so I can get back to my laptop, my research, and start blogging again. I went 2 months without blogging and just had really bad withdrawal.
Oh, I bet.
And just get back into maybe publishing some books. I'm researching my daughter-in-law's family line, and I started on it last Thanksgiving and then had to take this 3-month hiatus, so I'm really anxious to get back to that and publish something for her.
I'm so glad to hear that he's feeling better. Yes, and I know he has his own blog. So please tell us his blog and your blog.
Ernie's Journeys is my dad's blog. He's Ernie Markheim, and my blog is Grace and Glory.
Great. And what's the URL address so they can find you on the web?
Mine is Becky's graceandglory.blogspot.com. But I have a website through Weebly, which is a free site, and it's called ajoyfulspirit.weebly.com. And from there you can find my email, all my blogs, my surnames, everything you want to know about me, and more.
Wonderful. And we will have links for everybody listening in the show notes so they can just click right through and meet you, Becky Jamison. Thank you so much. I knew there was so much good stuff going on here. I felt guilty pulling you aside to take you away, but thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. I enjoyed meeting you, and I want to tell all my blogging friends to keep blogging.
Thanks so much for joining me for Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 114. I hope you picked up a few gems that will help you in your research and in your surfing online. I want to thank my special guest, Becky Jamison, for chatting with me. And of course, I have the show notes for you with all the information and the links to the websites that I talked about today. Just go to genealogygems.com, click podcast in the menu, and follow the links to episode 114. Now, before I let you go today, I want to share a little story about the genealogical serendipity that came my way not long ago. I gave a presentation called Inspiring Ways to Capture the Interest of the Non-Genealogist in Your Family. I gave that at a local genealogical society. And I gave an example of some items that I had found on eBay from my husband's Larson family, who hailed from Winthrop, Minnesota, and they owned a hardware store and a lumber business there for many, many years. Now, I know I've mentioned that before on the show here, so you may be familiar with them. Well, I was taking questions towards the end of the presentation, and a much older woman named Harriet was sitting in the front row. She raised her hand, and she said that she was sure that she had a cookbook from Winthrop, Minnesota in her collection of books at home. Now, of course, you have to keep in mind that Winthrop is a small town. I mean, it's about 1 square mile, and the population hovers somewhere around 1,300 people. So I was pretty surprised to have someone in Pleasanton, California, telling me that she had a cookbook from this little town dated all the way back to the 1940s. And sure enough, Harriet followed up with me by email, asked for my email address, and told me that the book was a little worn, but all the pages were there and that she hoped it would be of some use to me. She says her sister taught either first grade or kindergarten there in Winthrop in World War II. And that's how it had come into her possession. And Harriet was a woman of her word because about a week later, the cookbook showed up in my mailbox. Now, it's amazing to me how just putting it out there, mentioning real people in my own research, led to this book making its way to me. But the genealogical serendipity doesn't end there. Not only did my husband's ancestors contribute recipes to this little community cookbook, which of course I was thrilled to find, but there was a recipe in there that I had been in search of for over 25 years. You see, when Bill and I first got married, he shared his fond memories of sour cream cookies that his grandma used to make. Now, I'm an avid baker, so I had checked with his mom to see if she had the recipe. No luck. And over the years, I have tried to find a recipe for sour cream cookies in an attempt to recreate them for Bill. I mean, I've looked everywhere. And every time I found one, I would whip up a batch, and he would take a bite and shake his head and say, they're good, but they aren't like Grandma's. So the first thing that I looked for when I received that Winthrop cookbook, which was from the town where Bill's grandma was born, I went in search of a recipe for sour cream cookies. And sure enough, there was one. But it wasn't contributed by Bill's grandma. But as you can imagine, particularly in a small town like Winthrop, recipes were probably swapped neighbor to neighbor and handed down through generations. So I wasn't deterred a bit that it was submitted by not a Larson, but a neighbor of the Larsons. Well, I immediately baked a batch, served them up to Bill, and his eyes just lit up. He took a bite. He was ecstatic to once again be tasting Grandma's sour cream cookies. A small victory, but a thrilling one nonetheless. So I emailed Harriet and I told her the good news and I thanked her profusely. And I got a reply from her husband, George. Get this. He writes, I thought I would add a little amusement to the coincidence of the sour cream cookies. My father, George Anderson Sr., was a salesman for the American Steel and Wire subsidiary of U.S. Steel from the 1920s to the 1960s, traveling to every hardware store and lumber yard in southern Minnesota to sell fence, posts, nails, etc. I don't have any record of it, but I am sure that he would have called on your family's hardware store in Winthrop. He knew all of his customers by name, no doubt your in-laws included. So folks, I think it's a small world after all, don't you? Thanks for listening, friend. I'll talk to you soon.